since they know that he has actually been living here in Taiwan since 2016. Which begs the question that apparently, at least according to the Chinese embassy in Sweden themselves, apparently Taiwan is not part of China. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I'm in the middle of the process of taking down a few things from the studio here. This is something that I will explain very soon in a future video. If you have been following my Instagram or my Facebook, you might already be aware on what's happening in my personal life, which will explain why I'm currently tearing down a few things from this studio. Anyway, my name is Lucas, and I am now also realizing that I completely forgot to install this brand new microphone that we have here. And although these two microphones are very close to each other, on the outside they look very similar as well. These microphones are actually connected to two completely different systems. You might actually say one video, two microphone systems, which of course doesn't really sound like such a good idea. So we're gonna take this microphone, put that away for now, and start with focusing on a Swede living here in Taiwan. But this time I'm actually not talking about myself or Jonas that I know that most of you also are familiar with. This time I'm talking about the Swedish journalist who have been living here in Taiwan since 2016. His name is Jojje Olsson, and he's very active when it comes to writing about Chinese news and Chinese politics. He's actually so active, so he is the founder of the #1 leading Swedish news site about Chinese news. And at least when you look at all the hundreds of comments I'm getting week after week when I'm making these Taiwanese related news videos, although the Taiwanese people seem to be quite happy when a Swedish person are talking about Taiwanese news week after week, the Chinese people, when a Swede are talking about Chinese news week after week, are not really that happy. In fact, they're actually so upset, so not only do they send one letter to show their disappointment to Yuya himself, they actually send 4. In this video, we're not going to cover all these letters in detail because I think that we can just skip ahead and focus on the 4th and most recent letter that Yuya has received from the Chinese embassy in Sweden, because I think that this letter kind of gives us the summary of the whole story and especially the general message and attitude that he has been receiving from the Chinese embassy. Mr. Jojje Olsson, you have long been colluding with Taiwanese separatists, fabricating fake news to smear China. You have not been in China for more than 5 years, yet you put up a sign and claim to be China expert. We ask you to immediately stop the wrongful actions, otherwise you eventually will face the consequences of your own actions. Best regards. No, I'm just kidding. There was no kinds of regards at all, actually. It was only signed Chinese embassy in Sweden. So what is very interesting here, other than the Chinese embassy asking him to stop before he has to face the consequences, which I guess will be up to you as the reader to interpret for yourself what facing the consequences might mean when it comes from the Chinese embassy. They're also calling him out since he hasn't been in China for more than 5 years, since they know that he has actually been living here in Taiwan since 2016. Which begs the question that apparently, at least according to the Chinese embassy in Sweden themselves, apparently Taiwan is not part of China. Well, something else that the Chinese government definitely do not think is part of China is the United States, which is why when the Chinese government are sending planes over here to Taiwan, there are fighter jets filled with all kinds of weapons, whereas when the US government send over planes, they are filled with delegations and some of President Biden's personal friends. Although I haven't been able to find out why the US government decided to send over some of their most senior members all the way over here to Taiwan, most news media claims that this is to reinforce the support and to show Taiwan and the entire world that the US care about Taiwan and basically telling the Chinese government to suck it up. But I have now made this Taiwan news show for more than half a year, so I do consider myself having a little bit of experience reading between the lines and finding these different news about Taiwan from all over the world and putting them together in order to get a clearer picture, which I then can share with you. And this week I think that I have actually been able to figure out why President Biden decided to send some of his most senior and some of his personal friends all over here to Taiwan. And that's just simply because sometimes some things are simply that important, so you cannot just trust anybody to clear up the situation for you. But I have to say, it actually has nothing with trying to tell the Chinese government to suck it up. I think it actually has to do more with the US government wanting to suck it up themselves. You see, if you thought the year 2020 was bad, which in the history books will go down as the year without any social interaction, then I hope you're sitting down, especially if you're currently watching this video from the US. As we all know by now, this still very much undergoing pandemic has caused severe shipping and importing delays that has affected pretty much every single country and every single industry. And the last couple of weeks' recent events didn't really help this whole issue to get solved any faster. We have already talked about the semiconductor and the chip issues, and now it appears that at least the people in the US won't even be able to drink their sorrows away, since there now appears to be a bubble milk tea shortage as well. Now you may wonder, why is this such a big news? Wouldn't the Americans be able to survive without the precious bubble milk tea? But you should know that the drinking culture of bubble milk tea, with a history of drinking bubble milk tea dating all the way back to the year 30 BC, with BC being before COVID. Nevertheless, according to Yelp, which is a very popular online review platform, then bubble milk tea, or boba as it's also called, was actually the most popular item to be delivered during the early stages of the pandemic in several different US states, including California and Hawaii. And although bubble milk tea is produced in several different countries around the world, I think we can all agree that the Taiwanese bubble milk tea simply is the best. Just as we all can agree that the Taiwanese passport is the 30th best. I know, you don't have to tell me in the comments below. I'm 31 years old and I completely agree that once you reach the number 30 and above, the numbers aren't actually that impressive anymore. But it's 2021, what does it matter? Who cares how strong your passport is? Who cares that Taiwan has the world's 30th most powerful passport when you cannot travel anyway? I also know that this is not a competition, of course. I just quickly want to mention that Sweden actually made it to top 6 in this global passport ranking. So in my hand right now, I'm currently holding the world's 6th most powerful passport, which you still cannot travel with right now. But if you currently are looking for ways to settle that travel hunger for you, at least literally, then you should be happy to know that Starlux Airlines are now starting to launch their food in the local 7-Elevens here in Taiwan. And you will be able to buy this food for the bargain price of 99 Taiwanese dollars, which is only 0.01% of the cost of a quarantine-free trip to Palau, which I actually still have not heard anything about from any of the local Taiwanese travel agencies. So once again, if you do want to send someone from Taiwan to Palau to make around a 10-minute YouTube video to show everyone why they should invest 80,000 Taiwanese dollars for a 4-day trip to Palau, you know who to call. But to end this video on a little bit more positive note, I just want to update everyone that so far we have actually collected 1,900 Taiwanese dollars for the donation to the victims of the Hualien train crash. If you didn't see my previous Taiwanese news video, then you definitely should watch all my Taiwanese news videos. But the previous one was the one about Super Taiwan, and in this video I'm mentioning that all the ads revenue I will be making from that video will go straight to the donation to the victims of the Hualien train crash. And if you want to contribute as well, all you have to do is to first watch that video, but then most importantly also watch those ads. That's all you need to do for YouTube to pay me, and then I will make that donation on April 30th, which is the last day of this collection. That was everything I wanted to share in this video, so I think that I'm gonna go back, see if I can actually install this microphone and also take some more things down in the studio here, and then hopefully I will be able to explain all of this a lot more as soon as I finished editing that other video as well. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Lucas, starts with L as in like, ends with S as in subscribe. Please do both, and see you all in the next one.